You hear a lot about the beaches, but what about the lakes on the Oregon coast? In this video, we're going to talk about some of the coastal lakes on the Oregon coast, and all that starts now. Hey, what's up everybody? This is Clem with the Home Team Brokers coming to you from the Oregon coast. And if this is your first time to the channel living on the Oregon coast and you want to get more videos like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and tap the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. We talk to people all the time who are relocating to the Oregon coast, moving here from out of state, relocating, buying a second home, vacation home. We love to help with that process. So if that's you, make sure to give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video and schedule a Zoom call with us. Either way, we would love to help with your move to the Oregon coast. All right, we've switched over to our map here. A lot of people ask us about lakefront living on the Oregon coast. A lot of people want to move to the Oregon coast for the moderate weather, obviously the beautiful scenery, and everybody wants to be near or on a body of water. Most commonly, that's going to be on the ocean, near a beach, but some people do ask about lakefront living in particular as they start doing some research. They start seeing, these lakes kind of, peppered up and down the Oregon coast in very close proximity to the ocean. There's a lot of lakes. There aren't a ton of lakes where there are houses actually that are right on the lakefront. So in this video, we're going to talk about some of those lakes and where may be some good options to start searching. And you'll find that these really are few and far between. And then by default, there aren't a ton of inventory. There aren't a ton of homes for sale that provide that lakefront living, but you can usually find it in particular, again, in a couple of different areas. So, if we look at the whole of the Oregon coast, obviously you have Highway 101 running up and down the coast that does break off from the coastline a little bit here and there at times. And as you're poking around a map up and down the Oregon coast, you're going to see a lot of different bodies of water beyond the ocean. You're going to see bays, estuaries, lakes, rivers. So you see a lot of water, and there are opportunities to get some of those water views or waterfront living. And as far as lakes go, we're going to start here in Rockaway Beach, where you have some pretty small lakes just on the east side of the highway, which Highway 101 runs through here. It's pretty slow through here in town. Most notably, you have Lake Lytle here, where you can actually operate a motorized boat, but I think a lot of people get in here and paddleboard. A lot of great fishing, smallmouth bass. I think there's probably some stocked trout, things like that. And you can see there's not really a ton for housing around these lakes, but if you are in town in Rockaway Beach, you can get to some of these smaller bodies of water relatively easily. Up here, you do have, again, on Spring Lake in pretty close proximity. And then with Lake Lytle, you have a community in here. But I think for the most part, when you're looking at what people would consider lakefront living, they're probably envisioning some larger lakes in more of a forested area, which you can get, and these are going to be some areas that we look at here. A little bit underwhelming as far as some of the lakefront stuff in Rockaway Beach, but you do have this in town, so definitely worth noting, if you want some different options beyond just the ocean. You do have some of these lakes in town, makes for a unique landscape. All right, so zooming back out, we're going to go down to Lincoln City here, where you have Devil's Lake. So Devil's Lake probably has the most residential area, lakefront residential area on the Oregon coast. You're right in town in Lincoln City, so you can see Highway 101 running here on the west side of the lake. So pretty much all of Lincoln City runs, long north to south along Highway 101 here. So if you were living in this community or any of these communities on Devil's Lake, you're pretty much in town. So that's a really unique dynamic. A lot of people look at Lakefront Living. They think of, being a little bit more remote, a little bit more removed. Usually you don't have a town of this size, over 10,000 people, right there on a lake. There's really not much like this in Oregon aside from like a Lake Oswego. So definitely kind of a sneaky area that a lot of people, when they're looking at Lincoln City, are considering a lot of these great oceanfront neighborhoods, a lot of great oceanfront houses or beachfront houses in Lincoln City, but you also have Devil's Lake. So I think that's part of what makes Lincoln City such a desirable area and increases the demand for this area in particular. Let's take a look a little closer. Again, a really big lake. You have these kind of little peninsulas that are built out with housing and, really developed. A lot of these places have docks. Now, something that's unique about Devil's Lake, too, is that you're not able to operate a motorized boat on this lake. So, I think this is a pretty quiet, pretty laid-back community and area. There might be specific areas where you can operate motorized boats, but, you're not seeing a ton of jet skis or boats towing wakeboarders or water skiers, things like that. And again, you can see all the way along this lake, you have development, you have housing. So this all makes for some really beautiful views. You have the Dee River that comes in right here to the ocean. So you can actually, start somewhere up north here. You can paddleboard or kayak down here and get out to the beach. It's pretty cool. Also, this is an area where you aren't seeing a lot of short-term rentals allowed. I think all around the lake, it's a 30-day minimum for rentals. So it's not like if you lived on the lake here on Devil's Lake, you're having to worry about a ton of people coming in and out on the short-term rental side. So if you're looking for lakefront living on the Oregon coast in an area that has a lot of people, in an area that's close to Western Oregon, close to Portland, I mean, you can get up to Portland from Lincoln City here in about an hour and a half, under 2 hours for sure. So it's on this northern section of the central Oregon coast, really kind of an extension of this northern third of the Oregon coast where towns are a little closer together. It's a little more populated. I think there's just more resources overall, having a more densely populated area. And again, if you're considering lakefront living, if you want to be on a lake but near the coast, near the ocean, Devil's Lake is about as good as you can get, I think, for the Oregon coast. All right, really the primary region where you're going to find a high volume of coastal lakes is down here from Florence, pretty much all the way down to Coos Bay, North Bend. So starting on the north side of Florence, you have Mercer Lake. You also have Sutton Lake, Clear Lake, these areas down here. Not as residential here on Clear Lake, but Lake Mercer, or Mercer Lake rather, I always get that backwards, has a ton of housing along here and very quiet, very peaceful area. You're so close to the highway and so close to the ocean beaches, but really when you're here on Mercer Lake, you feel really removed from the Oregon coast. It has a little bit of a different climate, and that goes for a lot of these lakes in this area. You just have a little bit of elevation change. You're removed enough from the coastline to where, it could be 10 degrees cooler over here, in town, like around Hasita Beach, for example. Getting down to Mercer Lake here on the north side of Florence. So yeah, really, really cool area here in Mercer Lake. And you can see a lot of these houses are kind of buried in the trees here, so you can see some of the rooftops going through, but there's also some houses kind of smattered in the trees, so it makes for, again, a really beautiful landscape, a really unique area for the Oregon coast, and something that I think tends to fly under the radar a little bit for a lot of people too. And then zooming back out, again, you have Sutton Lake where you have some housing around here. And then if we zoom out on Florence a little bit, you have the Siuslaw River coming in, which kind of hugs this south side of town. This is the downtown Old Town area here in Florence. So if you're up at Mercer Lake or Sutton Lake, you can get down to, this Florence proper area, this, kind of main part of town, probably within 10 minutes. It's all pretty close. And then if you get south of Florence, you cross this bridge here, you pass through Honeyman State Park here on the west side of the highway, rather. And then you have Wohink Lake. And again, you can see all this development around the lake. I mean, these are all lakefront communities. Moving down into Siltcoos Lake, which is enormous and it's beautiful. You have some marinas in here. You have housing built out, developed around it. So you have Dune City here right on the lake. Then, of course, you have Darlings. And right here at the marina, probably some of the best barbecue, if not the best barbecue you can get on the Oregon coast right there. So it's a great place to go hang out. If you lived on Siltcoos Lake, or if you lived really anywhere in Florence, you're going to be spending some time down here on Siltcoos Lake for sure. So this Siltcoos Lake, Wohink Lake, very beautiful. And then another thing too about this area, so again, from Florence really down to Coos Bay, you're going to see a really high volume of coastal lakes, but this is also dune country, so you can see all the sand dunes through here. So ATVing, dune buggying, I mean, really popular in this area. It brings people from all around the state and all around the country to get out on the sand dunes. And then again, you also have these great lakes around here. So I think really for people who enjoy, some of the outdoor sports, some of the more extreme outdoor sports, this whole corridor is going to provide a ton of opportunity. But I think at the same time too, is, even though it does attract a lot of tourism, a lot of people come into this area, for the weekend, for a week, it is pretty quiet and pretty laid back. Again, especially with some of that lakefront living. So you don't see as much housing or as much development here in Tockenich Lake and in this area, but all very beautiful and very accessible from this whole corridor. You get down into Reedsport, you have the Umpqua River coming in down into Winchester Bay. So a lot of open water here, a lot of area where you can still kayak and paddleboard, and there's a lot of bays and areas like that on the Oregon coast where you can kind of get some of the elements that you would be looking for in a lake. But moving south here into Lakeside, just north of North Bend, Coos Bay right here, Lakeside has 10 Mile Lake, and you can see Lakeside, the town, is set right here on the lake. You have some different marinas, and then built throughout here along the lake, you also have some housing too. So here on North 10 Mile Lake, you can see all along the shoreline, you have housing and some development. So this North 10 Mile Lake area is another spot where we definitely point people in the direction of if they want water views, or in particular if they want to be on a lake on the Oregon coast. And then lastly, you do have Florist Lake, which is south of Bandon. Just a little bit of development in here, but you can see this lake is, really right on the beach, really right on the ocean. You're in a little bit more of a rural area here in this Langeloy, Denmark area. So driving through here, it's really pretty undeveloped and pretty rural. But down here on Florist Lake, you do have a little bit of development and some housing here. So it's going to be in, a smaller quantity or smaller volume of housing, but definitely something to keep on the radar as well. All right, so, if we're looking at the Oregon coast as a whole, there's a lot of different bodies of water. Again, there are estuaries and rivers. Of course, you have the ocean. You have a lot of different bays, and you have some of these lakes, but most of these lakes do not have housing development. Some have it nearby, very close, where the lake is accessible, maybe even on foot, but there's really only a few different lakes that offer lakefront living. And again, even those lakes up in Rockaway Beach, you can be, they're in town, you can be near there, you can walk down and go fishing, take out your paddleboard, you can get some of the benefits of living near or on a lake. But it's not until you get to Devil's Lake Lake, where the coastline or the shoreline rather of Devil's Lake is completely developed. There's several hundred houses there. And then down into this Florence to North Bend region. This is dune country. And you have Mercer Lake, you have Sutton Lake, you have Wohink, Siltcoose Lake, and then down to North 10 Mile Lake in Lakeside. You get a little bit of a higher volume of either lakefront living, or you can be really close to a lake. So if you have a boat, if you like fishing, if you like to paddleboard, you can get more options than just the ocean, where fishing, taking a boat out, taking a paddleboard out on the ocean is a little bit of a different story. So you can get a lot of those elements in this stretch in particular, and then down into this Langlois South Abandon Florist Lake as well. You can get a little bit of housing there. So if there's anything that I missed, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you are thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, you want to be near or on a lake, make sure to give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or click the link down below in the description of the video and schedule a Zoom call with us. If you are thinking about moving to the Oregon coast, looking to be near a lake, I hope this was helpful. If this video was helpful, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want to get more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video. We appreciate you watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.